Hi everyone, this is Nina Griffin, and it's April 7th, 2020, coming to you from Los Angeles. I wanted to spend a little time today talking about Venus in Gemini. We're going to have Venus in Gemini for a little over 3 months, starting April 4th until August 7th, I believe. That's a really long time for Venus to be in one sign. Usually she's in and out within about a month. So it's quite a long time. Hopefully, it's an enjoyable time for you. If you have any planets in air signs or fire signs, generally it's going to be a positive experience for you because she'll be making either trine or sextile aspects, unless of course you have things in Sagittarius, in which case she's going to be making oppositions, which can be a little bit more tense, but still, in my experience, not horrible unless there's some really negative background influence going on for you at that time. So one of the things that I like to talk about is the nature of Venus in Gemini. So as I'm sure you know, Venus is the planet of love, but at a very basic level, she's really all about finding connections and making ties and grouping people and things together. So this is something that whenever you see Venus prominent in a chart, whether it's natal or an event or whatever it is, she's always going to be moving in the direction of unity, right? That's what Venus wants. Sometimes that's good, other times that's not so good. So context is everything. Venus is also very interested in pleasure and enjoyment. And in fact, William Lilly, who was a traditional astrologer, he was a 17th century English astrologer, talked about the influence of the different planets on people's careers. And he said that when Venus signifies someone's career, it's going to be difficult for them, or it's an enemy to learning and study because she just wants to have a good time. You know, it doesn't mean she necessarily has vices, although that's possible too. But it does mean that Venus just is not going to sit there for 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day with her nose in a textbook. That is not the Venusian way. So really, if Venus is your key and primary career significator, for example, she is going to be very much in favor of the arts, things that require inspiration, that require you to have a certain feeling or a certain state of mind. And she's also going to be very focused on the finer things in life, in the sense that maybe you provide them for others, maybe that's your career, and then possibly you may also enjoy them for yourself. So there are a lot of really interesting elements to Venus, but when she's passing through Gemini, she's very influenced by Mercury. And this is, of course, because Mercury is the planet that rules Gemini. So we now have the goddess of love, Aphrodite, in a sign associated with Hermes, the god of communication, the god of lying, the god of messages, right? So he's the guy with the wings on his shoes and with the caduceus rod, right? So how does Venus relate to this very different kind of energy that Mercury represents? Well, the first thing I would say is she is going to be very communicative. The way that we're going to show unity and show togetherness is through an urge to talk and communicate and do airy things. So airy activities are not just speech, but singing, entertainment, anything that requires the use of language. She's also going to be a bit more cerebral than usual because Mercury, of course, is all about thought and the analytical mental process. So Venus is going to really be into games suddenly, right? I can see gaming, especially social gaming, being really important right now for people. And it's a good opportunity too for individuals to get into that if you haven't done it before, or if you just want to kind of find friends who are into games and like puzzles and things like that. That's a really wonderful time to do it. You'll have 3 whole months to do it. Now, one of the things that's particularly, I would say, challenging with Venus is that she obviously is not going to have a lot of so-called essential dignity in Gemini. What this means is that she's better positioned in some signs than others, and you might be familiar with this concept. So she loves being in Taurus and in Libra because these are her homes. She also loves being in Pisces because she is said to be exalted there. And so she has some special powers and special qualities when she's in these signs. But Gemini is not one of the signs where she has these major dignities. So it's not that it's bad for her to be there. It's just that she can't really express her Venusian nature. But of course, every planet can only express themselves as much as they can given the constraints of a sign. So she's not going to be as much about love and togetherness and making these really powerful emotive bonds. She's going to try to attain a closeness and togetherness through these mercurial pursuits. So as I said, games could be part of it. Speech is another part of it. Videos like this, for example, are a part of that. However, I think you're also going to find that Venus will be a little bit more removed, right? Mercury is not a warm and fuzzy planet. He's not really interested in connecting with people at an emotional level or showing them a good time, which is another facet of Venus. This is really much more about engaging at that mental level. So it's a really great opportunity if you've ever wanted to do any writing, if you've ever wanted to do any kind of creative cerebral work. I think Venus in Gemini is just a phenomenal opportunity to start that. Now again, in 3 months, hey, maybe if we're all still quarantined, maybe you can even finish your novel. But for most people, it's just a great time to start and to really get some good groundwork in on whatever your Venusian or Mercurial project may be. So again, think about how Venus fits into your own natal chart. You know, for me, I have a lot of air signs, as you might be able to tell. So whenever I have a Venus passing through Gemini, historically for me, it's always been just a really kind of fun and carefree time, an opportunity to communicate in different ways, an opportunity to talk to people that maybe I haven't in a while or make some new connections, that kind of thing. I really recommend that you try to stretch your communication boundaries now. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, and again, you might find new friends and a new chance to just make those connections. You know, it's not going to be necessarily super deep because Mercury doesn't really do depth necessary, you know, just when he's left to his own devices, he's kind of more just airy-fairy and just skipping around. But it's a great chance to make those connections initially, and then they might deepen, right? As Venus goes into Cancer, which is much more emotive and much more soul level, I think you'll find that if you want to retain some of those friendships, they could certainly deepen and become much more intense.